Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well. So recently I binge watched all of The Punisher, and there's this bit towards the end, it's not a spoiler, don't worry, but there's this bit towards the end where he has his logo spray painted on his body armor, and there are some bullets in there and some blood, and the second I saw it, I was already trying to figure out how I could transfer that onto my face for a video. So in an ideal world, we'd just be able to paint the whole face and neck black and then paint the white straight on top, but unfortunately that's going to turn into a big grey mess really quick, so I'm starting with the white and kind of working backwards instead. I'm using a NYX jumbo pencil in the shade Milk just to map out the white areas to begin with, and I'm not being neat, of course, this is just the base and it's a messy look anyway, so you can get away with it a lot, you have a lot of leeway. I'm also going to take the teeth down the neck, making sure that they line up when I'm looking straight forward with the lines on my face, because then it's going to look really cool in your pictures when you bump up the contrast and you kind of lose your jawline and they become long continuous lines instead. Next, I'm starting to introduce the black paint, starting at the edges where the colour is going to be the most intense, and then I'm bringing that inwards when there's less paint on the sponge. Something I recommend doing to avoid getting those harsh lines from the edge of the sponge is just taking one of the sides and just ripping the sponge up so that the surface is nice and uneven. And then it's going to apply nice and uneven and patchy and really work in our favour. I'm also using my finger to blend the black over onto the white, and on the forehead you can even see that it's already starting to create the kind of effect we want. Another thing I started doing was placing the black first with a brush and then using a little cotton bud to just blend out the edges across onto the white. It's also going to absorb a little bit of the paint and again help with that patchiness. Around the eyes you want the right side to be nice and neat and quite defined, and then the other side kind of just blends out into the background. It's defined in the inner corner, but then the further out you get, the less definition there is. Again, I'm using the water-based paint here, but then I'm going to swap over to a black eyeliner to line the upper and lower waterline, and also to go over the lid, and then I'll set that with an eyeshadow too, just to prevent any kind of creasing happening and keep the inner part of the socket nice and dark. Once I was happy with the general shape and look of things, I went ahead and added the white paint over top. I did the same thing I did before with this sponge as well, ripping it up to add texture. I guess one of those orange sponges or little black stippling sponges would also work too, actually. But this is the kind of thing I was going for. Do you see where it kind of overlaps onto the black and it's starting to look like paint splatters? I was trying to not go over the same areas a bunch so that the white paint would stay white and the black paint would stay black. For the most part anyway, a little bit of grey works nicely, but I didn't want the whole thing to turn into a big grey smudge. And if any parts were looking a little bit too clean, I took one of the little cotton buds from before with the black paint on and I just roughed up some of the areas. For smaller areas, I used one of those little eyeshadow sponges. In some places, I added little paint drips and spots, and these little details are some of my favourite bits of the whole look, actually. Then for the teeth, I decided to do these big long strokes with a duo fibre brush. You know, the ones where the bristles are two different lengths? The white bristles are long and sparse, so I used one of those to apply the paint with to give that broken and uneven coverage. You can also use the tips of these bristles to create the paint splatter effect too, instead of painting them in individually. You could get a bunch of them in one kind of stamping motion. Now if you wanted to stop here, you totally could. I think this looks awesome, it's very striking, the contrast is beautiful to me. Or you can go ahead and add the bullets and the blood. So I took some water on a cotton bud and I just removed 2 circles of paint where the bullets are going to go. Then I added a little bit of black around the edges like the paint had been removed. I used a bronze eyeliner to outline the bullet shape, and then I mixed this metallic powder and mixing liquid together. I'm just applying this mixture in the center, and then I'm leaving a little bit of the eyeliner around the edges to add some dimension. For the blood, I used a blood splatter spray to begin with. Then there were also these lines of blood with drips coming down. So I did this with a dark red paint to begin with, because you can make it nice and watery so it drips down nice and organically. The only issue with this is when it dries, it's matte and it just looked rubbish. So you want to add some fake blood or Vaseline or lip gloss or something with a little bit of shine over the top just to sell it a little bit more. But then that's it. I really hope you enjoyed this video. It was lots of fun to make. If you give this a go, you know I want to see it, so make sure you tag me on Instagram or tweet me. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll speak to you next time.